Howdy folks, welcome to Bullish on Farming. Today is April 27th and we just moved our 7 pigs out into our first paddock of a 6 paddock forest rotational system. For those of you who have seen our previous videos, we raise pigs out in the forest. We do not have a sow operation. We pick up feeder pigs, usually as weaners. These ones a little later than that. I think they were about at 2 months old, so about 8 weeks. And we had them in a training pen before we got them out into the paddock system. And pretty much what we use is tensile wire. The inner fencing is a double strand, high tensile, 12.5 gauge. And on the outside, I did 3. And I built this last spring. And as you can see, we have some of our steers and a heifer here that are lined up for our beef progression. Just checking out the new visitors on the farm. So this paddock's got some good grass coverage in it. It was lightly foraged through by our last 2 gilts before sent off to the butcher in the fall. And that's why it's bounced back nice and pretty to accommodate our newcomers. You can see that the next paddock still has some work to go yet. And, you know, the following paddocks that are actually a little bit more dense with bush than this paddock is. I did cut down some trees last year. But the pigs do a lot of clearing of saplings, twigs, and a lot of the brush and branches off the side of the trees, especially when they start to get a bit bigger. They'll just bully and break all those branches on the side of a tree like that. And that just clears all the brush. You know, it's much easier to walk through this forest section than it was last year. And that's part of the work that the pigs will do for you on your farm. Now, why did I do 3 strand on the outside? You know, I built one of these things before with another farmer, did 2 strand on the outside, and it worked just fine. But just for me, you know, especially when you're putting in weaners out here in the forest, it gives me a little bit more of that peace when I go to sleep at night, knowing that if there is any predator pressure, that third higher wire will keep and deter those predators a little bit more. Because a coyote can easily jump over that fence, but you know, a predator trained to electric fence usually won't test it. It's been psychologically imprinted into that animal, which is why it's important to keep your fences hot. And you know, training our pigs before they go out into a paddock is important for the same reason. Pigs will naturally push through an electric line when they get shocked if they're not trained to move back. So how do you get them trained to move back after a shock? You want to have them in a training pen with a physical barrier on the other side of your electric line. And that will, in of itself, train them not to push through it because they can't. They'll push into a wall and keep getting shocked. So instinctively, they move back. And what we use for a training pen is, you know, this section here is designed as a training / loading pen, and it works great. But when we have weaners that are 4 to 6 weeks old, you know, the gaps in this page wire fence are actually not big enough. They can slip right through that. And so what we actually do is when we get them in right young, and this is our fancy gate that opens up when we need to load pigs to a trailer come 6-7 months, finishing at about 250 pounds. We get them into this subsection here of our loading pen. And the reason why it's page wire is it's a seamless separation. They can still see the pigs on the other side when they get loaded, and it's low stress. When it comes closer to that time to load the pigs, you get them in this subsection with the physical barrier, because you'll be giving them a little bit more pressure to get onto the trailer. And we block off that back edge, and you know, you have the feeder waiting in with the water, everything they need. Everything's comfy, cozy. Trailer backs up, swing that gate open. Trailer's pretty flush. It's about as wide as a trailer. And then, you know, you just kind of sweep them forward and they hop right on. And if they don't, put a bucket over their head and walk them backwards. But I'll show you what we used for a training pen this year. And I had these bales lined up to walk the pigs over earlier today from our door swung open, and just had them mosey right on through that gate. And I used that culvert here to just block this gap. Nothing fancy, folks, you know, just use something that works. And I built the training pen out of our bales, large 4x5 800-pound round bales. You can see we got plenty of them. And you know, the double tensile, well, it's polybraid on the inside, and that makes it more easy to put a temporary setup. And you know, a couple weeks in here, the pigs are really trained, and you can see what I mean about a physical barrier on the other side. But let's get back to the paddock system, because there's nothing like raising pigs in the forest. Most people don't know that pigs are actually, they evolved in the forest. They're a forest animal. They will sunburn unlike other animals. And so having ample shade is great. And instead of having a permanent shade fixture where the pigs will conglomerate constantly, we have a forest is perfect, because it's like having umbrellas naturally positioned all throughout your paddock. And you know, these pigs are new to this ground, and it's a bit later than we usually want to turn them out to pasture. But you know, this is what we're working with this year. The folks that I manage the farm for, we got pigs a little older. And remember, folks, it's not even May. So if this wasn't a lightly foraged paddock to begin with from the fall, we wouldn't really have much grass to offer them. And there's nothing wrong with putting them out on the soil. It's better than just being in a confined barn, if you ask me. But, you know, it's always nice when you can offer them nature's bounty, that being the vegetation rooted in soil, and allow the pig to live the pigness of a pig in their natural life cycle. And so having trees throughout, dispersing your shade, having forage that's available all throughout a paddock so that they will have impact equally all across your paddock system. Churn up the soil, eat the roots, eat the grubs, eat the bulbs, adding to that meat quality and the health of the animal while regenerating your soil health. It's a win-win-win. And people who are worried about your pigs escaping, you just got to train them to electric wire right. People who have pigs escaping, they don't have their pigs trained to wire. And if they are trained to wire, their wire's not hot. And if there's periods of time where that wire goes out, there's no power going to it, or it's shorting, the pigs will eventually exploit that. And so, you know, we got a 50-gallon, I think it's a 60-gallon tub, and 2 pig nipples on it. And they screw in nice and tight, and that works great. Of course, you know, there's going to be a little bit more impact around the water, but as you can see, it's strapped to a tree and hiked on a tire. I can move that tub to any tree I want. So if I refill that water tub, I might choose a different tree. And the pigs are in each paddock for no more than 2 to 3 weeks at a time, depending on their size and the time of year. And so, you know, you're moving on to the next paddock, and you keep the system moving with the pigs. But you can see they're getting the hang for it. You can't take the rooting out of a pig. It's what they're meant to do. Areas where they're just working on your soil is perfect. Following behind the pigs with some hand broadcasting of seeds, legumes, and even stuff that'll take within a gestation period and grow out for a 70-day rest period before they return. You know, with regards to that, there's an opportunity. And that's how much rest we get on each paddock, about 70 days before the pigs return back to a paddock that they had grazed previously. And there's nothing like seeing pigs out in the forest. I mean, most people are used to seeing them in a barn, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the reason why it's so majestic and fulfilling to one's eye is because it is the natural setting, and you get to see the extravagance of nature in its element. And we love doing it. So I know people like the pig videos. I got to get in the habit of posting videos. I stopped for a while and, just focus on farming and serving the animals, the land, in God's image, in God's name. And, we have a blast here every single day. So anytime I'm able to share that with folks, it's an absolute blessing. Anyways, folks, I think I'll cap this one off here. I'd like to say thanks for stopping by. God bless you all. See you on the next one.